Welcome, future masters. Do I have something to show you? So, let's look at this. I'm going to once again remind you of the four elements that I use. We look at checks, we look at captures, we look at piece contacts, we look at board situation. So, first thing that steps into my mind is that we have a massive kingside attack. Now, on the other hand, white is threatening to take our queen with queen takes g6 check. So, the thing that I see is very interesting. We have a preponderance of pieces, on the king side, which is really everything from to the left of the bishop. So files D, E, F, G, and H. We have four attacking pieces. He has one defending knight, a queen that's reaching into that area, and a rook that's sitting there like a dummy. And probably he's blocking the king's escape. So when you have a 4 versus, essentially, let's just call it 4 versus 1, and the queen, well, we'll call that 2. I was going to say 1.5, but let's go call it 2. Let's be generous. So we have 4 versus 2. That means we could probably sacrifice a piece and still win this if it's the right piece. We can't play. We'd love to play rook takes knight, but he'd play queen takes queen check, and we're dead. So much for rook takes knight. So, what other kind of moves can we play? The only check we have is like queen takes g2 check. Throws our queen away. We have, bishop to h2 check, sorry. So we have two checks there. We have rook takes knight, which is terrible. Queen takes queen, which isn't terrible, but it doesn't do anything to help you win. So in the context of this problem, it's terrible. Well, if you don't see that it's terrible, you have to mentally work through that we have a kingside attack. We don't want to take a kingside attacker and throw it away, taking that queen on b1. So that would be a terrible move in the context of this position. All the forces are concentrated, D through H. So let's try not to worry too much about stuff, over there on the right side of the board. So piece contacts, or in this case, a blocking of a contact. The queens are contacting each other, but rook f5 would block it. So I would call that a piece contact, even though it's like a shield. Rook f5 would shield our queen. Doesn't really do much, but it would shield our queen. So the thing we're going to have to do, this is kind of difficult to explain how you find this move. I mean, I've already found it long ago, but I'm trying to figure out how to explain it to you guys so that you can understand how to find this move. I can show you the move, but that's not as valuable as teaching you how to find this move. Okay, I'm going to use what I used. There's another one, another video where I've used this mention. There's a secret technique, and we're going to use the secret technique today. So I'll tell you about the four elements: checks, captures, piece contacts, and board situation, right? Well, there's a fifth one. It's a secret. You don't hardly use it, but I created a fifth one as well. The fifth element, is what I call the crazy move, the psycho move, that can't be right move. It just looks so terrible. Like, for example, one of these, a move that would fit the psycho move or crazy move, or however you want to designate it, is up to you. Doesn't really matter. Would be something weird like queen to g3. And the crazy move is something that you use that's a secret. Like I said, it's a secret element that we just hardly ever use because it's almost a desperation type of idea. But so we want to look at a move that maybe we threw away that we thought was no good. And really, you want to go and try and look deeper down the line. One of the things that I've analyzed, since I'm trained in science and math, when I saw brilliant moves played by players, one of the things that makes a move so brilliant is the fact that it's unexpected. And in many times, it looks downright ridiculous. You're like, you're going to move your piece there where he can just take it? Yeah, because it wins. So I have another, what do you call it? A saying that the most brilliant move looks like it was played by an idiot. So what move could you think of now that would fit the bill of this move looks so stupid, we better look at it? For example, queen to g5 is a move that might fit this bill. But you'll have to know what it's specifically doing. If you just say, well, I'm going to play queen to g5, oh, that move looks really dumb, let's check that out. But if you can't tell me what it's doing, then it's probably not the move. So, for example, like I mentioned, rook to f5. The job of rook to f5 would be to shield the queen from his queen. So that's the description. It has a concrete designation of its, it's moving to shield the queen, interposing between the queens. If your move doesn't have this, that it's achieving an objective, you've got to figure out what the objective that you're going to do is, and then how does your move achieve that objective. I know this is sounding very nebulous and kind of hocus pocus-ish, but that's kind of how it is. This is some really bizarre stuff. So I'd tell you to pause the video, but if your powers are such that you're not that skilled, you could sit there all day and not find it. Because you have to, it's not a move that you find on your own. You have to be trained in chess and advanced chess ideas to some degree to be able to conceive that such a move is possible. Like, not rook to f5, that's not that crazy. But, if a move was like, well, queen to g5, which does nothing, or queen to g4, if that pawn takes queen, we don't have a choice there. So I'm going to say, I guess we're going to do the thing where you pause the video and look at it, because I'm just going to have to show you the move and then explain to you how I figured it out. Because you either will get it or you won't, and if you're not getting it, I can't say that I'm helping you get there. But once you see this and I explain this process to you, I think you will be forever changed for the better. Okay? So if you like, pause the video for a couple minutes. Don't kill yourself. This is a toughie. And we'll be back in 3, 2, 1. Shazam! We're back. Okay, here's the dealio. The fifth element, the secret trick, is to play, like I said, the stupidest move you could think of, bishop to h2 check. That move is terrible, right? Well, I'm assuming you're saying, yes, that's terrible. Well, that's also not the move. But let's just look at this for a second. Bishop to h2 check. Now, he'd take it with either the knight or the king, and it doesn't really matter because it's terrible. But we would say that, for example, If he took it with the king, we're going to decoy his king to a square. That's the job it's doing. But that's not the move. Here's the move, and it's a monster. The move is, well, I'm going to do this, I guess, through visualization. I visualized the whole thing already. But the move is queen takes g2 check. And you look at this move, and it's a ridiculous move, is it not? Well, look at what happens. Queen takes g2 check. It fits the ridiculous part because it looks like an idiot would play queen takes g2 check, right? King takes queen. We follow that up with not rook takes knight, which really doesn't do anything. He's going to play queen g6 check. We play rook to g7 check. And now it's starting to perhaps take hold in your mind. Where can his king go? Now, fortunately for us, he could interpose the queen. That does nothing. We just take a free queen. He could interpose the knight on g5. Again, that does nothing. Rook takes knight. The rook has to capture if there's an interposition on the g file. So, let's go back to the beginning. Queen takes g2 check. King takes queen. Rook to g7 check. Now, whether he interposes or not is irrelevant. We would just chop whatever sticks in there with our rook. So let's just not even go through those. Let's go to the next move. His king is forced to move. King to h2, that's covered by the bishop. He has one square. And my rule is, if you're attacking a king and he's only got one retreat square, you're probably winning. And in this case, you are winning. So, again, I like to start, anytime I have a discussion that gets us off of the line we're playing, we want to go back to the beginning and start it again. This just keeps it in your mind fresh and clean. Queen takes pawn check on g2. King takes queen, rook g7 check. King h1 forced. Now, here's the thing. You have to be able to see this move. I saw it in visualization, and this is where it gets tough. So, if you don't see this in the visualization, and we'll go through this visualization section after we get to this moves, this is going to tell you that you need to work on your visualization techniques that I work on every day. So the move here, I'm not going to kill you with it. You'd find it if it was further played. Let me see. Well, I'm going to think for a second. Should I show you or should I tell you what it is? My visualization, I'll just tell you, but you look at it, you would probably see it once you get there. If you're not seeing it in visualization, when you get to the point where it's in front of your eyes, you see the move is fairly obvious. We're trying to checkmate this guy. So the move is rook takes knight, because there's no way for him to stop to advantage rook to h3 check. He could play queen to d3, and we'll just take his queen, and then he could play like f3 to block it. But we've already won a knight. Okay, so now I'm going to play this combination. Well, let me run through a visualization one more time. And we're not going to consider the interposition of knight or queen. They don't change anything. So it's number 1, queen takes pawn check. 2 is king takes queen. 3 is rook g7 check. 4 is king h1. 5 is rook takes f3. 6 is, I don't care what he does. I'm either mating him on the 7th move of rook takes h3, or I'm taking his queen on the 7th move of rook takes d3. I really don't care, barring if he throws in the interposition of pieces. That's just 2 more moves each. I take it. He moves it, I take it. He moves it, I take it, whatever. So here's the sequence. Let's go for it. 1, 2. There it is. There's a bonus. 4. So instead of 7, this is going to be a 9. Same story, but instead of rook takes knight, we play rook to f3. This blocks the f pawns to help in defending, sets up the unstoppable mate, except for throwing his queen away, which he throws his queen away, like I told you. So let's look at this guy. I can count the whole sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. It's a 7 mover. We threw in, throwing the 9 away makes it from a 7 to a 9. But like I said, since you could easily tell that it would not alter the fundamentals of the position, it was irrelevant whether they showed up or not. So I didn't count those. To me, it was a 7 move combination that wins, even though it turns out to be a 9. So it doesn't matter. All that matters is, were you able to see the 7 key moves? That's really what it boils down to. So we won a bishop, or a knight, but we have, ours is the bishop. We won his knight for free. So he can't play f4. He has to play f3. But we still get him by rook to d2. There's nothing he could do. We're going to checkmate this guy. There's nothing he could do. He can't play rook g1 because rook h3 is mate. If he plays f3, we play rook at d2. And to stop that, he has to play like rook to a2. We chop that off. You see how ridiculous it becomes, which is all fine. This is, so like I said, this is a very difficult, this is more difficult to play in a real chess game than what it is here, because there's no penalty here for you making a mistake. In a real chess game, what I would do in a tournament game as a high rating player is I do exactly what I'm telling you here. I visualize the entire line. And so what I was going to tell you is that this move, this is a destruction sacrifice move. And if I can't tell you what this move is doing, the odds are that it's not the right move. I'm taking a pawn with check. That's not the correct designation. So I'm hoping to teach you how to properly evaluate what is going on here. This is not, I'm taking a pawn with check with this queen. What you're doing is you're destroying his castle position. You're making an opening because, like I said, we had 4 attacking pieces. He really only has 1 defender, and he kind of has part of a second defender here on g6. So we were being kind to say he had 2 defenders, we have 4, and I told you we could sacrifice a piece probably, right? Well, there you go. So this is known as a destruction sacrifice. So we destruction sacrifice, we wrecked his pawn structure to create lines of attack for our rooks. Bam. Now this one, this is he's attempting in what you would call chess science. In chess science, he's giving us an opportunity to make a mistake and play pawn takes, which would be an interference move. Well, we don't want to interfere with our rook, right? We want to maximize our rook's scope. So rook takes knight, because there's no penalty for taking this. So he was forced, again, 1 move, king h1. And we played an interference move. Now, I need to make a video of chess science. That's what I need to do. I have a book that's perfect for this that will help us out. So be on the lookout for chess science. They'll come pretty soon. Rook to f3 is an interference move. We're interfering with his ability to play this f-pawn to block us from checkmating him. If we play any other move besides rook f3, we will not win this game. He's a queen ahead. Queen versus bishop, he's winning. But our entire combination relied upon destruction of his kingside fortress and then interfering with his attempt to make an escape square. So this is what I'm talking about. And this is chess science. And I'm going to make a video about chess science, about the fundamental phrases that we need to understand in chess science, because you never see this anywhere, and it just occurred to me that we're going to do this. So all of you guys watching this video, you're the first ones probably to get the idea of chess science. I'm going to teach chess science here. So, killer move, rook f3. Queen d3, exactly as I predicted. Now the thing is, as your ability increases, you'll become better and better at doing what I do. And what makes me a good, well, one of the things that makes me a good player is my understanding of what's going on and the ability to predict the best move for the opponent, okay? And that's a secret. It's not, you know, the great players whomever these people are that you admire, you know, could be Hikaru, could be Magnus, could be Bobby Fischer, could be Kasparov, could be Tal, could be Spassky, could be, you know, Vichy Anand. All those guys are tremendous players. What makes them so good is that they are able to predict with deadly accuracy the moves that their opponents are going to play. And that's what separates them from players like me, who's very good, but they're in another league, okay? And there's no shame in admitting that. I'm doing a fraction of what they do by predicting with accuracy what the moves that are happening. Like, because if you went back and looked at the beginning of the video, when at the beginning of the combination, I said, you know, queen takes, king takes. Now this is forced. This is not, king takes is not rocket science, okay? You don't take credit for that. That's obvious. The skilled player finds rook to g7, okay? Again, he has only one move, so it doesn't take Matlock to figure this out, okay? Well, he has this throwaway move, which I told you was going to happen. That's one of the things you have to know as a strong player, is that, well, he could play knight g5 to try and obfuscate the technique you're executing against his king. So yes, that requires some skill. Again, now king h1, he has only one move, doesn't take much skill. High level skill is that seeing in the visualization process. Here, like I said, it's not that difficult to see here that you need to checkmate him. You guys would have a good chance of finding rook f3. And if you're looking here, I saw this way back at the very beginning before I took the g2 pawn. That's what my skill and my experience has conferred to me as an advantage. Okay? So rook to f3, and then I said, well, he can only really play queen to d3. Again, he can throw queen to g6 if he wants to. Or he could also play queen to f5. But this is a trivial move, pawn takes, and he's toast. He's mated. There's nothing he can do. So I don't need to spot. Queen to d3 is the reasonable move. You know, you're spotting the idea of him trying to counter the checkmate, which is going to happen here. So the only way he could do that would be either queen f5, defending it directly, or queen d3. Anything else doesn't really matter. I'm not here, and I hope you understand this. I see posers spouting platitudes, which are meaningless statements, in trying to look like they know what they're doing when they don't know what they're doing, but they're trying to sound impressive and to appear to be knowledgeable. But real knowledge doesn't need any kind of fancy package. There's an old piece of wisdom. The truth from a child is always true. It doesn't matter how old the child is. Truth is truth. It doesn't matter if it's a child who tells you or if it's a kung fu master. 2 + 2 is always 4, no matter who says it. Okay. So the ability to predict the opponent's response is huge. That's what separates the men from the boys. My father's lesson, and you'll see it in my videos all the time. You'll hear it. Sorry, not see it. You'll hear it. I always say, my dad would say, "What's he trying to do to me?" Because my dad recognized that if you could predict the opponent's move, it's like a secret weapon. Okay? So that's the thing that I wanted to try and explain to you. Hopefully you understood what's going on here, and hopefully I've helped you. But I'm going to help you guys more with chess science in a future video where I'm going to give you the fundamentals that will help you understand some of the things that I might say stuff like interference or destruction, sacrifice, or whatever. There's other ones too. Clearance, sacrifice. I think they're clear, but I'm going to make them super clear because there's always a beginner who's never heard these terms and they're like, "What are you talking about?" So that's the thing. So I'll work on that. Hopefully this helped a lot. And like I said, on the visualization, try to visualize this whole sequence, and it's testing your ability. If you can't visualize it, make a mental note of how far you're getting. And you're trying to get further and further to where you can see. Sometimes it's a 3-move combination. Sometimes this one was technically a 9. Okay. You only have to see 7 of the 9. The other 2 didn't matter. The knight G5, rook takes knight. That's not a big deal. So you want to call it 9 or 7. I'm good either way. Whatever is fine with you. Whatever makes you comfortable. Whatever helps you to learn, that's what I'm for. Okay? It's real simple. It's about learning and getting better. And if whatever I do that helps you do that, that's what I'm for. Okay? So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like this video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I don't know. 27 minutes and like 15 seconds.